Egyptian Heaven and Hell by E.A.S. Wallis Budge, Ym Duat, which is book 1 of the series, chapter 5, the 5th division of the Duat, which is called Tempt. Tempt. And remember that since this is over a 100-year-old book, yeah, I can't PDF it because it's a reprint. And the particular pages are, but I can comment on it. And commenting on spiritual things and giving a spiritual thing, I'm giving even more license. So I'm going to basically read the old text and show some things to comment on occasion. In the scene that illustrates the 5th division of the Duat, which is passed through by the sun entity during the 5th hour of the night, we see the boat of the sun being drawn along by 7 entities and 7 demons and 7 demonesses. See page 91, 95, 99, 103, 107. Okay, so these are all actually ahead in the text. The legend of the 7 entities is partially broken away, but what remains of it proves that it must have been similar in meaning to that which is over the head of the demonesses, which reads, "These are the demonesses which tow Ra along in the Duat over the circle, and they make this great entity to advance so that he may rest in the Duat." And, okay, Duat, Nu. Okay, because we have the plural there, so you want to maybe add an extra U, because NW is not pronounced as such. In the front of the 7 demonesses march 4 demons, who appear to be under the guidance of, I forget how to say Isis. Yest. And who is described as the great sovereign chiefs who provide food in this circle. And remember when we refer to the actually earlier Kurdish culture of who we call Yazidi, they had 7 demons under the chief demon, or the chief demon as part of 7. So, just to cue you in on some of what's going on. And this first entity is called Herksu, and holds a staff in his hand. The second is Yn Duat, pleasing to Yn, and holds the scepter. That weird little thing with the thing and the like the penis on top of the bull penis on top of the what's it called? On top of the crook. That's what the scepter really is. Which meant you couldn't really whack someone with it; you'd break it in hand. The third is Haru Hakue, and is hawk-headed, and holds the crook. Just a plain shepherd crook there. And the fourth is Muddu, because remember that teardrop-looking thing is a mud, and holds a tree in his left hand. They keep holding things in their left hand. The text, some people would say that means it's of the left-hand path. The text containing the address of the sun entity to the 7 demons is broken away, and all that remains of it reads, "This great entity maketh his journey by means of those who tow him over this circle in the boat," and a portion of the answer of the 7 entities is read to him, and is also broken away, but remains of it reads, "It is open to thee, the earth to such an extent that thou hast passed over the beautiful land, and the roads concerning that which Ra hath spoken to thee, Yusur. Thou criest, O Ra, to the land of Seker, and Hor hath, Horus, hath life upon his sands. Come to Kthbre, O Ra, come to Kthbre. Work ye with the cord, O ye who make Kthbre to advance, that it may give the land to help Ra, while he passeth over the hidden ways of Ra to the horizon. Come in peace, O Ra, of the beautiful and Yimpt, the beautiful Yimpt. And this is what's going on here. And if we are to connect what's going on here, we can actually connect the themes of my last seasonal. Nergal could be Yusur, Osiris, and Ra could be Chemosh. All hail to the crown of the north and the south, right? In the middle of this scene, we see that the ground rises and forms a kind of hollow mound, the highest point of which terminates in the head of a woman, which faces to the right. Immediately above her head is a scarab, which is in the act of descending. Because it's not all about ascent. Descent may be the best path, in a way of thinking. Well, in a way of describing, whatever. But only one half of its body is visible. Concerning the beetle, it is said, Behold, Kthbre, who immediately is towed to the top of the circle, unites himself to the rows of the Duat. When this entity standeth on the head of the demoness, he speaketh words to Seker every day. Skur. Okay, I should just start saying skur. Or scree. Skre. Yeah, skre. Because the short lines of the text just above the mound read, The majesty of this great entity journeyeth on by being towed along, and these demonesses receive him. Words which are addressed to the entity by the demonesses are, Come, O Ra, to the peace of the Duat. Let Ra advance on the boat. Let Ra advance on the road and the boat, which is in the earth, in his own body, and let his enemies be destroyed. Yimpt crieth to thee, O Ra, so that thou mayest join her, and mayest go forwards in the sky as the Great One, who in the horizon, and mayest be towed along by those who tow thee, and verily mayest destroy all thine enemies. This address, Ra replies, saying, O ye who have received your weapons, O ye who have grasped your scepters, O ye who shake your spears, O ye who stand by chafu food, who sit down to your offerings, who are the warders of food and bread, and are the lords of the provisions and the Yimpt. Yust giveth herself unto you, and Yimpt joineth herself unto you, so that I may stand up by you for your protection when I pass by you in peace. So, the peace of the underworld, it's not just for so-called official religions. Well, I guess this was the official religion. And the Jiao food. Let me see if I can find that. Maybe that's... Okay, yeah, that's... No, but there would be an F. Jaxfoot? Jaffa? Okay, I don't remember where it is, so I'm not going to hold you up. In the land of Skre, which is mentioned by the 7 entities who were towing the boat of Ra, lies immediately below the mound of earth and forms, as it were, an oval island. In the river of the Duat, its shape is, as M. Maspero has said, an elongated ellipse, and is formed wholly of sand. The land of Skra is described in the legend which is written at the end of the oval as the horizon of the hidden country of Skra, which guardeth the hidden body or flesh. Oh, the hidden body or flesh is a long name. You have Payu Pyaba Sa Taha Shata Skri Sapa Sanif Shata, something like that. The mysterious oval is supposed to rest upon the bodies of 2 man-headed lion sphinxes set tail to tail. Of these, however, only the heads and forequarters appear, one at each end of the oval. Each sphinx is called Yef, and he is said to have his existence from the voice of the great God, and his work is to keep ward over his image. So, definitely demons maintain the worship of their image by aiding the experience, or they can anyways. Within the oval already described is stretched out at almost full length on the ground a monster serpent which has 2 snake heads at one end of his body and a bearded human head at the other. The text above the snake's heads is mutilated, and all that can be made out satisfactorily are the words Ah, great God. From the middle of his body springs a pair of wings, and between them, immediately under the female head, at the top of the mound, stands the entity Skre, in the form of a hawk-headed man. Out of him it is said, his work is to protect his own form. And of the serpent, he liveth upon the magical protection which issueth from his mouth every day. The text which refers to the oval reads, and let's see, we are clearly on the descent here. And despite what the Natura Nethra cult says, we are clearly talking polytheism and diversion from God, but that's where the that's where the evidence is going to be the clearest, because a bunch of idols and limited ideas of divinities and counter divinities and stuff like that is, a lot easy to identify than here's a plain building where people worship. The Native Americans, there were buildings that they only figured out, building 21st Mecca, and it turns out that there was cultural, people made their way across, but and there's definitely writings of a monotheistic nature, but the money was behind worshipping what we would call demons. So that's why I'm saying this. Don't mean to insult you New Agers, but I'm just being real here. The image which is in this picture is in thick darkness. The dawn in the horizon which belongs to this entity cometh from the eyes of the heads of the great God, whose flesh sendeth forth light, whose legs are bent round, and the great entity who keepeth ward over the flesh of Skra, who is on his sand, his own image. The force of this horizon is heard in this hour after the great entity hath passed them by, like unto the sound of the roaring which are in the heights of the heaven, which they are disturbed by a storm. Well, this is almost a 30-year-old book, but anyways, so remember how individuals like Aleister Crowley would perform rituals on sand in a particular thing because that was something easier to move, and so they'd see a sign of the spiritual side of their operation that was something they could look at later and say, oh, it wasn't just my mind. On the left of the horizon of Skre is the serpent Depad. Oh, Dipyan. Not Tepan, Dipyan, who liveth by the voice of the primeval demons of earth. He cometh forth, and he goeth in, and he presenteth the offerings which made to this great entity every day, unseen and unseen. And remember, the demons were here before the humans, and they have choice, so we can't. On the right of the horizon is the serpent Anxia Pao. Anxia Pao, which means who liveth upon the flames which issue from his mouth. His work is to protect the horizon, and he never entereth into any house of the Duat. So, sunrise, sunset, right? Immediately in front of this serpent are 4 seated entities, of whom the heads of 2 are turned behind them. They are described as the entities who hold the secret forms of Skre, who is on his sand. The first holds on his knees the white crown, the conical thing. The second, the red crown, which has a kind of twist thing up, but it basically holds the other crown. The third, the head of a ram of Haru Shefshefet. And the fourth, the plumes of Shu, are some other entity of light and dryness. Shu being of the spirit. The legend above them reads, their forms are in the place among them in their own bodies. They follow after this great entity, unseen and unseen. Behind the serpent, Dupyan, are the 4 human bearded heads, each with a mass of fire upon the top of it, which project from the long narrow lake called Natu. These are called the blazing heads. Along the lake are written in 2 methods of writing. The entities who are in the Ym Duat weep when the boat hath passed them by on the way to the Duat, and the waters which are here are like unto fire to those who are in them. An afterworld sort of hell. But continuing the descent here, and sort of there's a barrier. Well, some would say it would be crushing the Sphinx, but really the Sphinx is the support of its distinctness. In the upper register are the demoness Ym Duat, standing with her arms stretched out in front of her at right angles to her body, and wearing the feather of Ma'at, truth, on her head. A group of 9 large axes, 4 are broken away. There's all sorts of Ennead stuff, particularly when talking about demons. People say, oh, well, it's a Sufi Ennead, and well, yeah, can be that too, but the Sufi Ennead is like a response to that sort of thing. A group of 9 large axes, the foremost surrounded by the crown of the north, and the hindmost by the crown of the south. The mutilated speech of the entity written above them reads, give me thy hand, Ym Duat. Good is this water which leadeth to the tomb. Rest the gods. Hail, exist ye, O 9 entities, who have come into being from my flesh, and have not come into being from your own forms, and who are firm in respect of your food. I avenge you. Do you avenge me? So, the demons have offspring. There are lineages of jinn that aren't demons, but anyways. The entity who is in the guardian, who is the guardian of those who are submerged. The entity saw tu. So tu is, the vulture. Thanksgiving today, as so they call it. So very important one, number 4 there. The entity Ym Duat, so life of the heart, hawk-headed. The entity Bath, Badcha, Batcher, Crocodile-headed. So we got we got Batch, Ruscha. Some of these are quite difficult to pronounce. Yenup, Hani, jackal-headed. Remember, Yinpu is Anubis. Of these 5 entities, it is said they act as guardians of Nut, and of those who are submerged in the Duat, and make pass onto the boat. To these, the sun entity makes an address, which reads, and I'll say that after we see that. I'm reminded of the I'm reminded of Goetia number 70. I'm reminded of Goetia number 40, and 38 or 39 or and remember, in the sacred week we were talking about, it is the 5th today. This great entity saith, O ye who stand by your waters, who keep ward over your lands, who go round about in the pool of those who are submerged in new, pilot ye these to the lands of the sea of the Duat, into your waters which never dry up, and rise ye up in your lands, and let me travel over you in peace. This great entity saith, O ye lift up your weapons to your image, and protect ye the foreheads of your Ma'at, truth, and perform ye your work in order that I may be able to pass by you in peace. Immediately, in front of the entity Yenup Hne, is an object which looks like a chamber with a rounded roof, but whatever it may be, it is filled with sand, and from the fact that the sign of nights are darkness. It's kind of like heaven with a lamp and a cord. Appears at the top. We may conclude that it represents some form of the dark underworld of Skre. To each side of it, a hawk clings by its claws, and from the lower part of it emerges the scarab, which has already been mentioned above, a huge serpent, the 2 heads facing the object, described under number 8. Of him it is said, he liveth by Ra every day, he travelleth over every place of Ma'at and the Duat, and it is he who setteth himself in opposition to the scarab. To the serpent, Ra saith, Hail thou serpent Dur, whom I myself have fashioned, open thou to me thy folds, open thou thy folds wherewith thou hast doubly sealed the earth to protect me, and march thou against those who are in my following, in order that I may pass by thee in peace. The entity Bath Rakefteo, ram-headed, the entity Eoher Yipt Su, who holds a lasso in each hand, and Remember, we are approaching the gathering day of the week, which is not the Sabbath, by the way. The entity, Ym Duat, wearing a feather of Ma'at, the entity, Ambui, with his head turned behind him, he is provided with a shade. The entity, Yimu, bullheaded, the demon Set, bullheaded, the entity, Sunt Nuf Yimteo, the entity, Hatep Natsuraru. Of these 8 entities, it is said, they stand by at the annihilation of the dead and the Duat, and their work is to burn up with fire the bodies of the dead by the flames from their mouths in the course of every day. A demoness, standing upright with her hands stretched out to the top of the head of a man who is kneeling before her, and is cutting open his head with a hatchet. Queen of Swords in the tarot. The demoness is called Tudnut Ka, something like that. There's a, sort of pillar with, series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, or maybe it's a door with a bunch of posts, like a coat rack, or not a coat rack, anyways, and lives upon the blood of the dead, and upon that which the entities give. The text of the speech which the entity makes to the 8 entities reads, "The majesty of this great entity saith unto them, Hail ye who stand at the blocks of torture, and who keep ward at the destruction of the dead, ye whose voices have come into being for you, who have received your words of power, and who are endowed with your souls, who sing hymns to the accompaniment of your sistra," the string thing, "who take vengeance on the enemies, who annihilate the dead, who hack into pieces of shades, who destroy and cut into pieces the..." Okay, let's see what's going on there, and what is going on there. Yeah, she's cutting open his head there. "Who avenge dead, who avenge Yeskir, and hearken unto words near unfer." Okay, something beautiful. "Provide ye yourselves with your slaughtering knives, fetter and bind with your hands this figure which is with you, so that I may journey past you in peace. Whosoever knoweth this shall pass by the demoness in peace." The entrance into the 6th division of the Duat is made through a door in the lower register, which is guarded by a serpent, who openeth it himself. Here, too, appears the large 5-rayed star, which is the symbol of the planet Venus, Lucifer, as it can be called, and is described as the living God which journeyeth and travelleth. Letter onks yif shif. Okay. Because Venus versus the sun is sort of the pre-sage sort of thing. The Christians have turned this into John the Baptist and Jesus, but look at, there's the descent, but the snake's kind of saying, well, I have to go back and, or maybe he lies in the trap waiting for the people. And that's not a space helmet. Sorry, Zachariah Sitchin lovers, but a lot of interesting symbolic things going on that we can look at here and see. that reminds me of the sort of fugue you get in the middle of a ritual. But I'm going to leave this today, and probably tomorrow I am going to do chapter 6 of book 1. Sharma. Peace be upon you.